youth are unique. They have the energy, they have unique skills. Many of them are highly educated, they are globalized, and are confident that they can perform very well in an internationally competitive world. And we hear of all these trips, like the one the bank had, the one of Israel, where I'm telling you, things are done very differently. And that's what we'd hope to do to be profitable. So why farming? Why is farming important? Apart from, I'll tell you, it's therapeutic, it's meaningful, you are literally producing something that you can touch, that you can see, that you can handle. Yeah, global population growth necessitates sustainable farming. Without a doubt, our population is growing. Every day, we are getting new children, people are eating more. Yes, and there is urbanization. Many young people in the future want to come to cities. For a long time, we used manual labor. That leaves us with blisters. The problem with manual labor is that you cannot farm at scale. When you mechanize your farming, instead of relying on manual labor for most of it, do you increase your costs? Not like when you use traditional methods. And the problem with traditional farming is that, first of all, and they'll talk about it, you don't keep records. You just look outside and see it's raining or the weather is good, and then you go and plant. So for us to move to this kind of farming, we need paradigm change in our mind, and everyone can become a farmer. Of course, if you are busy in the city, there are crops that require less attention, and there are other crops or animals that require very focused attention. We know horticulture farming is very sensitive to pests, to the temperatures, to care. So that one often it's hard to do, and it's also perishable, like flowers. So you need to be more intense about supervising and checking and seeing what's happening. Modern ICT with farming. So there's what we call precision agriculture. And on the screen, I have an image of drip lines or drip pipes. These deliver the water to the crop. And beyond that, they deliver the fertilizer or the chemical that you want to apply to the crop very directly. And that is very important because we waste a lot of water, and water is a scarce resource. It's becoming expensive, and the traditional way of just putting water, a lot of water to the crops, the disadvantage is it drains the minerals, it drains the good nutrients that you want to preserve in the soil, because the sprinkler has been working, yes, and it's an improvement of flooding the land. Let me call it flooding the land. You have rare minerals like zinc, magnesium, calcium that really, and nitrogen that really work well to increase yields in your crop. But now, if in the same soil you have poured a lot of water, that water causes those minerals to seep down. Data analytics. Do we know what our farmers want? Often we plant when everyone is planting, and so that we can harvest when everyone is harvesting. And that's a challenge, because we know, because of basic economics, the laws of demand and supply. When you supply when everyone is supplying, the prices go down. I've seen in Kangemi markets people throwing away potatoes. I've also seen in Kangemi market at other time tomatoes going for 10-15 shillings. So timing is very important. And I want to encourage all of us, if you're into any business, not just agriculture, keep records. And I think after 3-4 years, you can see when our price is very high. We know that often over Christmas, that tomatoes sometimes are not present. They are not there. There are none in the market. We know that in January, February, we don't have a lot of potatoes, tomatoes, and all these crops. By March, we don't have maize. So keeping records will allow you to know the trends in the market, not just farming records, but business records, that then you can focus the demand that is there in the markets. We have drones. Maybe some of you have gone to these places where they're using drones to see where, to take photographs and images. Yeah, but what if, and I don't think this will take so long, and it's already being used by large-scale farmers where they can use a drone to circulate, to go around the farm and see what's happening. Is there a place where there is no security, people are harvesting, or are there animals that have invaded your farms without having to walk through? But before you use a drone, you need approval. You need approval from the authorities so that people don't get scared or thinking somebody is investigating them. So these are technologies that are happening, and our dear customers, please realize technology is here with us. I want to talk about rooftop gardens, vertical farms, community gardens, hydroponics, and aquaponics. And these are recent innovations. You'd be surprised to note that a country like Japan, even if it's very limited in terms of space, that they do a lot of farming on the rooftops and the verandas. They keep crops for beauty, for air, good air. So and that is very, very important, that we take advantage of the spaces that we have. But if you're in a rented house or in a community place, before you do it, please make sure you have the permission to do it. Vertical farms, I've seen them. People farm across the walls or on so many levels, especially in places like where it's very hilly. They build terraces and they farm on over very many high levels, and that allows them to get better yields. Community gardens, very common in places where if there is idle land somewhere, you can contract and be able to get that land and use it to farming. You see, you don't have to own land to farm. Yeah, you can go and hire land, and there are people who prefer to do that because land may be expensive, and you are just like the way if I want to work, I don't have to own the office to work in it. What I would do is go and rent or hire an office or lease an office. Even in farming, you may feel you may not have the land that you desire, but what can you do? You can go and get land. That's why everyone can potentially farm. Of course, you have to have an interest in farming. I'm not saying farming is easy. I learned that from my grandfather, who used to keep dairy cows, and he would get sick when the cows were sick, and he would be happy when the cows were producing highly, because he was in love with his craft. So, but as you do it well, you can get that extra shilling, you can get that extra support that you need. Hydroponics is where, like if you've been around the highway below, actually, if you've been below the expressway here in Nairobi, those of you who've had chance to see it, they use what is called vertical farming. Below, they have planted flowers all the way. So the place that they would have planted at the base, but now they have over 20 layers of the flowers they seek to grow. I believe one of the most massive innovations that we have today is sustainable farming, and we have a presenter coming in the next few weeks to talk about sustainable farming. And I want to run through this. And sustainable farming attracts better prices, it attracts better yields, it attracts interest I have a friend of mine who, because of medical reasons, they can only take organic foods or sustainably grown foods. And there are certifications. If you are going to tackle European markets, American markets, or Asian markets, they are always looking for sustainably grown crops and animals. So if I start, and if you allow me to use my fantastic coloring skills, I love it. If you allow me to just highlight this one, or maybe let me do a better color, this one. No chemicals. This is the big one. This is the big one. No chemicals. None. Or if you do very limited, and probably they are pre-approved chemicals. And you know, the burden of disease now we have in our country, I think this would be very important. And if there are people who are looking for it, the organic markets, I know one in Nairobi, but even for your own consumption, if you're farming your own food, you want to be very careful about the chemicals you are using. Number 2, no GMOs. Yeah, no synthetic fertilizers. You know, fertilizers crafted in a factory, not the traditional way that we make fertilizers with what they call manure. So for you to be able to tackle the foreign markets, the newer markets, you need to choose a good legal structure where you register your farm as a business. And because people say taxation is high, probably if now you farm as a business, then some of the expenses that you incur doing your trade, you can be able to reduce them when you're counting your tax or computing your tax. When you have a farm as an institution, and we have very large farms that sometimes you walk around and see, you formalize your business. It's easy for you now to get a facility from a bank like KCB as a business, not like a farm. Yes, just like the way a hardware person, publishing people, and you have people from publishing, transport people, get a loan as a business, not as a trucking company. You now, when you're properly registered, you can get that loan. You can get that facility. Actually, it's very interesting. If you are registered, you can actually write a letter to an expert in another country and invite them, because you're inviting them as a corporate, as a company. Yes, and you may even start simply as a name, just a name, a business name, and there you grow to be a company, because obviously a company has tax filing needs and company house filing needs. But formalizing a business often has more advantages than operating as yourself, because if you took a loan and for some reason you couldn't pay, and you've taken an individual loan to farm, then your assets are at risk. But if it's a business, then the business, the assets of the business can be attached to the extent of how much you have borrowed. Number 2, the Kenya government offers grants and incentives for youth and women, and I believe men in farming. For example, the Youth Fund, the Women Fund, and other funds. And there are a lot of donors that are coming into this space. They want to deal with formally registered entities. And there is procurement activities for youth, AGPO, that you can access to even as you become a formal business. You can even hire professionals where you write people a contract, you draw a contract that this company that does farming has employed you as a breeding expert, a veterinary, a crop expert, whatever it is. Now, you're not hiring as an individual, the casuals in your field, and some of them sue people. You can now even get insurance for them because of the nature of the work, because now you're registered as a farm.